But let's go across to our focus on the show tonight, and that's of course this tragic story, a story of a woman who seemed to be for all external purposes empowered. She was a young councillor in West Delhi belonging to the Congress party. She would have been 27 today, but Satyam committed suicide last night. After killing her infant daughter, she strangled her 1.5-year-old daughter, then hung herself. This would have been her birthday today. Her family says she killed herself because she was being harassed for dowry.
26-year-old Satyam Yadav, a Congress councillor from Nangloi here in West Delhi, was found dead in her house at around 8 o'clock this morning. We're standing in front of her house here in West Delhi. You can see this is the building in which she was found dead. Now, as far as her family members are concerned, they are alleging that her in-laws had in fact been harassing her for dowry for the past many months. She had been married in this household for close to 3 years now, and she had also had a baby girl, 1.5 years old, Vanshika. Tragically, before her death, before she committed suicide, she also killed her baby daughter. In fact, the girl was found in critical condition. She was taken to the hospital where she was declared dead. Now, an STM inquiry has in fact been going on in this case. Her family members have recorded their statements with the STM, who is going to look into this matter. As far as we know, her in-laws have in fact been denying the charges. They say that these allegations are all false. But her family members, Satyam Yadav's family members, are adamant. They maintain that there was regular harassment going on. In fact, so much so that she was a councillor, and during her election campaigns, her in-laws were apparently asking her to part with her campaign money to give it to the family in terms of dowry. With camera person Shashikant in New Delhi, Tanima Biswas for NDTV.
A story which is all too common in urban India. Why is it that despite an extremely tough law, instances like this are being reported every day? Joining me on this tonight, Kiran Walia of the Congress, Minister for Women and Child Development. I'm also joined by Nandita Das, actor and activist, and Flavia Agnes, lawyer and women's rights activist as well. Kiran Walia, you're a Congress woman politician as well. A young Congress councillor has killed herself. The larger point really being that, in a sense, she would have been seen as an empowered woman. She was in the Delhi Municipal Corporation. She had fought an election, yet at home, so helpless. What would you like to say on this?
Well, of course, it's both shocking and agonizing. And the fact that she was comparatively more empowered than the rest of the women, and we expect that these women who are empowered would be fighting for others, but this is the irony of the Indian society. This is the saddest part, and of course abominable, that we have yet not overcome some of our past habits, traditions, prejudices against women. And what I hear, I mean, more of things have yet to be established as to what really caused the suicide. But as per your reports, she has, the family has said that she was being harassed for dowry, and which of course cannot be dismissed, because this is what happens in the Indian society, and social changes are so difficult to be brought about, and the way the social revolution takes place is so sadly slow. And in this case, as in many other cases, even educated women have to go through this kind of harassment at the hands of their in-laws. So what really needs to be done is, then I believe the whole family is absconding, and they should have been nabbed by now by the police. There should be exemplary punishment, because that's all unfortunately we end up saying. But we have a dowry law which is hardly implemented across the board. Yes, those who enforce the law also indulge in dowry giving and taking. Everybody in our society, I hardly know of people who don't.
In fact, let me just bring in Flavia Agnes on the points you've raised, Kiran Walia, because even if there are arrests made initially, the point is the conviction rate is actually very, very low. And I think the irony being in the fact that despite the fact that we have women politicians in senior positions, you have the Congress party president, you have the speaker, you have former president, why is it that even in urban India, instances like these, I mean, the husband is a teacher. Again, of course, the charges against him aren't proved yet. These are just claims. But why is it that even in educated families, we see something like this happening again and again? Recently in Delhi, again, IT professionals, again, the young woman killed herself allegedly because of dowry.
Well, I think that this issue is not to be.
I think the problem is much more complex.
It's not related to this or that political party. This is what happens in our country with people belonging to any kind of political persuasion. It is a social issue.
No, of course, I wasn't linking it to the Congress party. Yes. I was just making the point that we have so many women politicians across political parties. Uttar Pradesh, it has the highest rate, had a former woman chief minister. But Flavia Agnes, if you could just come in on that question as well.
This is precisely why
I think it's a very complex issue, and I think we cannot attribute
for women, that they would be able to.
Sorry, Ms. Valia, sorry, I was just asking the question to Flavia Agnes. I'll just come back to you. I was just asking the question to Flavia Agnes. I'll just come back to you. Go ahead, Ms. Agnes.
I think the problem is much more complex. I think we cannot attribute everything to giving and taking dowry. This other value systems like the son preference. A woman gets depressed if she has not given birth to a son. She gets depressed if her husband is having an affair. She gets depressed if she is not able to allow to work outside. There are a whole lot of reasons why women are depressed. But I think overall, the whole problem lies in giving such an importance to marriage and keeping the marriage intact, so that the way women see the only way out is to commit suicide. And I think that's very tragic. Even in Bombay, even in educated families, you see this happening. And a new phenomenon in Bombay is women in high-rise buildings going to the top of the building and jumping down, and sometimes jumping down with their children. And that's really, really tragic. So what is the value system that we have? When you have a family complaining after the death of a girl, of their daughter, one wonders that what happened prior to this. What did the families do? What did the husband's family do? What did the wife's family do? Why these families could not help this woman to come out of her depression, or to deal with the marriage problem, or even to come out of the marriage? I think this is something, whether we have politicians in important positions, whether we have increased conviction rates, I think that's not going to stop the phenomena of women dying. Because I think by dying, women are showing a kind of resistance which they cannot show in their lifetime, and that's the most tragic part, and we need to address that issue.
Nandita, that's really a perverse way of a woman reclaiming, I think for what Flavia Agnes's point made, reclaiming some power by saying she actually has the power to take her own life. And also the way we look at empowerment, is it all about women having important public positions? But you could be a housewife and be much more empowered than a woman who may be working outside, but still has to come home and follow a certain line. Or as our report said, her family claims that even her campaign funds, that her in-laws were demanding this for dowry.
No, absolutely. I think first of all, empowered is such a word that I don't think it makes sense, because you can never be it in past tense. It's a process of empowerment. We are all trying to empower ourselves. So I think just being educated first of all is not empowered. It's one of the tools, but it also speaks a lot about our education system, because it actually doesn't teach you any values. You know, I mean, where there is no respect for a basic life of a child. You look at the sex ratio dropping. Why is it dropping in affluent classes? It's not dropping among the poor. They can't even afford to have sex determination, you know. So all these tests, if you see the figures where it's dropping, it's all in richer classes, in people who are educated. So I don't think this education system is giving us anything, and this is a complete myth that only the uneducated, the underprivileged, there is inequality, there is domestic violence, because the middle class and the upper middle class have just shrouded it with so much silence. And I think that is what is so unnerving and scary, that when it really goes beyond a limit, when a woman commits suicide, then we kind of all wake up and we want to talk about it, and you know, of course, then it's when it comes out in the open and you and I can, you know, also talk about it. But the point is, people who are around them obviously are silent to many of those smaller steps where they had these warning signs, and you can't blame anybody, because in a way everybody is part of that patriarchy and, you know, trying to fight their own space. So I think it's a larger issue, and that's why all of us literally have to take it upon ourselves to hasten this process, because the change will happen, but the change will be way too slow, and we will just see many more lives just going off like this, and we'll still be talking. And if I can just say that there is a big campaign that's going to happen, in fact, on February 14th called 1 Billion Rising.
Yes.
And I think it's a global campaign, you know, which is fantastic. So it's beyond parties and, you know, any kind of other divisions, where the whole world is saying, come on, it's not just an Indian problem. So the whole world, where women are coming out on the street, not just women, men, children, whoever thinks that they need to raise their voice against violence, they are all coming out in the open, and we are all going to be screaming and shouting and dancing and whatever it takes.
Yes, I just want to bring Kiran Walia and however on a more specific point, Kiran Walia, why I made the point about women politicians, and you said that it is part of society, but the issue really being on how can we actually make sure we have ministries. You are heading the Women and Child Welfare Ministry. We have it at the centre. Crores and crores are spent every year on schemes that are meant to benefit women and children. Yet the fact, the life we haven't talked about so much, the 1.5-year-old girl who was strangled by her mother. Apparently she was taunted for giving birth to a girl. What is the actual concrete results that we're getting from all this, from these ministries?
But I do agree, but you can't stop really spending on these campaigns and stop making, taking some decisions and at least making an effort. I agree with Nandita that however much you may say and you may do, one has been fighting against female feticide, domestic violence. There are, it's really very sad that our mental attitudes are not changing. You really need to shake people, and besides the fact that sometimes the police is slow in taking action, the punishment is not exemplary because, people lose on the path, on the way of trying to get justice in the court, which is really, really delayed. And every time, this thing happens. But it's not that when incidents do not happen, we are sitting quietly. You're making effort all the time. And in this particular case, as in several other cases, this victim, there's so often women who even, torture their daughters-in-law. It's a whole paradoxical situation where you really need to change attitudes, and the younger generation, I think, would become instruments of change. I do agree that through education, through awareness campaigns, that's all that you can do besides taking legal actions which have to be faster, which have to be more responsive. In this particular case, one has yet to find out whether an FIR has been lodged. I'm sure that it has been lodged. I don't have the details.
No, now
but
an FIR has been lodged. But I think Nandita's and Flavia's point is that now, in a sense, it's too late. 2 lives have actually gone. We do have to end this debate here, but I think it's important to keep focusing on cases like this because, as I said, today it's Satyam, tomorrow it's someone else. It happens across India. It's something we do all need to rise up against. Thank you so much, Kiran Walia, Flavia Agnes.
Excuse me, I would like to ask you a question before you wind up. How many of us check our relatives that please don't indulge in dowry giving and taking? How many of us, don't somehow willy-nilly do participate in this whole process? So we, as a society, need to shake ourselves and become, like examples, be it, political leaders, social leaders. I just abhor this practice, and this is what is taking lives of so many women who have even hung themselves because they couldn't get married. So I
completely agree. This isn't about government or someone else doing it. It's about a problem that all of us have to actually work towards resolving. But thank you so much, Kiran Walia, Flavia Agnes and Nandita Das, for joining me tonight on that brief discussion.
India's #1 news app just got even better. Download NDTV's new app. Fully optimized for retina display. Full screen view. Faster response time. And Sudoku. NDTV's new iPad app. Download now.